What is going on, crypto miners, and welcome back to the channel. Back in early November, I was asked to attend and speak at a Bitcoin conference in Slovenia, hosted by the team over at 𝐂𝐼𝐧𝐻. And well, a few months later, I got my hands on the footage and I'm really excited to share it with you. Now, I do want to warn you, the audio quality is not the best. I was actually really disappointed, and I tried my best to clean it up the best I could, but I'm no audio engineer. So make sure you have your hand on that dial. Am I dating myself here? Make sure you have your hand on the button to adjust the volume as you go through today's video, but there's a lot of really good information talking about Bitcoin mining back then and now.
Good job, my friend. Thank you very much. Ricky always brings amazing energy. Yes. Thank you, man. I love it. And yeah, welcome guys. You are probably into mining, and I just want to ask our panel so that we see who's here in the audience. Who started mining before 2015? Anybody? Okay, Mark. Okay. Ricky's there. Okay, wonderful. So we have some OGs here. That's perfect. The funny thing is that some people in the beginning of the days didn't even know that mining, actually, you need to turn on the miner. So I was speaking with like the OG guy, Dustin Trammell. He was the second guy running the Bitcoin node, and he just told me like, hey man, like for 3 days after starting the node, I didn't know that you just need to press mining there. I was just 3 days running the node without knowing that there was a miner, and it was like 13th of January 2009. Today we would love to be at the times, and we're going to look back at those times with you guys and what you do, and it will be my pleasure. So we have Marco Tarana here, the lead mining manager in 𝐂𝐼𝐧𝐻. Give it up for him one more time, please. And thank you, 𝐂𝐼𝐧𝐻, for hosting this amazing place. Then we have Jesse Pilke, the Bitcoin mining consultant. Welcome, Jesse. Is it working? Is it?
Yeah. I just have to hook up.
Okay. And then on the third chair we have the Hobbyistminer, the crypto mining content creator. Welcome, Hobbyist. Thank you. Wonderful to have you guys. So first of all, I would love to know more about you and you introducing to the audience. So please introduce yourself in maximum 69 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to be very sharp on that. I'm going to set up my timer to 69 seconds. And so let us know when you got brave enough to really jump into the mining, and also include one interesting, funny, or weird fact about you so people will remember who you are. Marco, let's start with you.
Okay, so hello everyone. Let's start with the funny thing.
Let's do that.
I've been a professional hockey player before, but yeah, hockey in Slovenia doesn't pay off, so that's why we have Bitcoin luckily. But yeah, I started mining in 2012. At the time I was playing Diablo 3, if someone remembers that one. And in that game you could buy items with real money, or you can sell it. There was an auction house in the game. And basically there were bots that you can buy, and then the bots would run the game for you, and you would get the items and then you could sell it. So this is some sort of venture for me. And you could only buy the bots with Bitcoins, because they were illegal. I mean, not illegal, but you would lose the account. That's how we got into Bitcoin, and me and my brother then started mining from there forward. We run a smaller mining site in Slovenia, 200 kilowatts GPU mining farm with about 600 GPUs, and that's. Then I joined 𝐂𝐼𝐧𝐻, and that's pretty much my story. I think time is up.
Yeah, 68, 69, wonderful. Thank you, Marco. Jesse, now is your time.
Starting?
Yes.
All right.
You go.
Hi, I'm Jesse. I'm from Germany. I live in Cape Town, South Africa, so arguably I've had the longest trip. Perfect. Maybe, I don't know. I got into Bitcoin mining, or Bitcoin more specifically, through my first job, which was selling power and operating solar power plants in Mali, in West Africa. And we had this problem of stranded power, right? What do we do when only 25% of the people who sign up for electricity actually want power on a Saturday morning? Everybody's asleep. The sun in Mali is quite bright and shines strongly. And so we've had a lot of excess energy and didn't know what to do with it. And having studied energy economics, that's how I got into it. How much time do I have left?
You're 40, you're good.
Okay, cool. Fun fact, when I get drunk, when I don't listen, or when I'm not focused, my eyes start to go wonky. So later tonight, if you do speak to me, and that happens, you're not captivating my attention, that has gotten me into trouble with my wife more than once. Yeah, that's me.
So if that starts, we should take you to a room and just let you sleep, right?
Tell me, listen, you're not listening anyway, just go to sleep.
Okay.
What's your Bitcoin seed?
You're like, oh, I'm saying words. Love it. Okay, wonderful. And Hobbyist, tell us more about you.
Awesome, thanks for having me. So I'm coming from Pennsylvania, made the long journey over here. Fun fact, never been overseas before.
Welcome, man.
Thank you. Almost 4 years old and was like, all right, I think we got to do this. So so HobbyistMiner, I'm a content creator within the YouTube space. Started early on in 2018, kind of dabbling into it, and within 3 months of not getting rich and not making millions of dollars, decided to get out of it. Typical first starter for most of you guys as well. You have high expectations, very minimal rewards. So content creator in the scene, started in 2018, got out of it, jumped back into it in 2021, and decided to document my journey of just getting into crypto mining with a YouTube channel. So I actually started knowing nothing. iPhone 6, just throwing it in front of my first GPU rig, which was a GTX 970, just one GPU. My first coin was Raven coin that I actually got into, which farther along than where it originally was, and just documented along my way, and now I live and breathe crypto mining, and pulled me all the way to Slovenia for it, so that's kind of what we're doing.
Man. I'm so happy that mining and Bitcoin brought you overseas right now. That's wonderful. Great to have you here, man. Okay, guys, so we're going to speak about the early days, the OG days, how we got here where we are. Marco, let's start with you. You've been through it all, as your future bio says, starting in 2012. I haven't known that you was a hockey player. What a transition, man. So tell us how it was in that early days. What were the things that you would hardly believe today, that was really happening?
The first thing that would pop my head is probably the amount of knowledge there was. There was pretty much no knowledge. There was some knowledge on Bitcoin Talk, but most of what thought how to start a miner was basically just a readme node inside the mining software, and that's pretty much all of the instructions you had. Then one of the things would be definitely scams. Back in the day, the only true way to get an ASIC machine was through an official reseller. There was no resellers, and if someone was promising to resell an ASIC, it was a scam. So the only true way to buy them, the good way to buy the machine, was through an official website. I think that's the key stuff that was happening there. So no knowledge, everything. People had to understand everything. They had to learn everything. And these kind of people that learned the stuff then, they still have those basics. And now these guys are operating these huge farms and so on.
That's wonderful. So they were learning the hard way and now applying that knowledge. That's perfect.
Thank you to today's video sponsor, ASICmarketplace.com. If you're in the market for the top ASIC miners, look no further than ASICmarketplace.com. They have some of the best miners on the market in 2025. To name just a few: Bitmain, Antminer L9 and L7, the AlphaPex DG1+, the Canon Avalon A15 XP, and many more. And home miners, ASICmarketplace.com has you covered as well. The AlphaPex DG Home 1, the Bombax EZ100C, the Ice River AL2 Lite, and many more. Finally, 3 big reasons I like ASICmarketplace.com. First, the price on their website is to your door. Shipping and import tax is included in the price. Second, they accept cryptocurrency as a payment method. And third, I've been working with them for over 2 years and never had a bad experience buying from ASICmarketplace.com. Go check out ASICmarketplace.com today and use my discount code to save $100 at checkout.
Guys, Jesse and Hobbyist, so what tech do you remember from the early days? What did you try and how you started the whole thing.
I have to admit, I didn't get into mining until maybe 2 years ago, really, like on a deep level. On the sort of energy front, I understood it, but I never started with Butterfly Labs miners or had FPGAs that I had to set when they came, if they came. I can only really talk about what guests from my podcast told me who are on and talking about, you know, if you get a Butterfly Labs machine, which maybe you guys can talk about, you were one of the lucky ones, and there were maybe a few pools or whatever.
You thought you were the lucky one, but like, nah.
I mean, what got me into it, like, as a hobby was Compass first, where I actually bought my first machine and then sold it again promptly after, you know, it kept being delayed. The first sort of experience I had myself personally with mining was buying an S19 for $8,000 and then reselling it for $12,000 again before it ever went live. Today these machines are at like $350 or something, so it's crazy volatile, and I can only imagine, you know, volatility decreases over time, right? So it must have been even more crazy as it started out, but yeah.
Nice. Yeah, so I think for me it was, you know, getting first into it, 2018-ish, was very like, you know, it was Windows mining, it was batch files, like CLI wallets, and like very intimidating, especially for if you didn't come from the tech space at all. So it was very like iffy, and the first program I stepped into outside of that was, and I don't know if anybody heard of MinerGate before. It was a very like questionable application that ran, shaking your head over here, on Windows, but it allowed me as a brand new miner to get into the platform, and it actually did algorithm switching. So on your CPU and GPU, it would swap. So I remember going back, I completely forgot about it. And then I went back like 21, 22, and I was like, wow, look at all, there was Ethereum in there were all these other cryptos in there that were just sitting in my wallet. Very hard to get to, platform barely ran, very unstable, unlike nice hash market, so you did. But yeah, in the earlier days, you know, during that time period, you know, that was a tool that I jumped into, and that's really what hooked me at that point in time. Was like, wow, this is fantastic. Like, and I knew nothing about crypto, these altcoins or anything about it. It was just this magic money, you know, that was on my computer.
Just appearing there, like numbers going up.
Yep, exactly.
Jesse, you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question to the folks on my right and my left. I remember, so I was an avid Counter-Strike player, and back in the day there were two leagues in Counter-Strike for professional gaming, ESEA and ESL in Europe, right? And ESEA had this big scandal where, and follow me on this, where they had their clients. So everybody would have a client on their computer to play the games, right, and to connect to servers. Those clients would start mining Bitcoin with people's electricity and their processes. How was that possible? Can you explain that? Anyway, like back in the CPU mining days.
It's very simple. If a game is running, you can run any program in parallel. So most likely they just run up a miner. And whenever you're in menu, like main menu, or pausing the game, then that batch file can just simply start up, and then your gaming PC is mining for them.
So all that lag that I had, which made me not very good at Counter-Strike, that's what it was. It was not me. It was definitely
it was you hacking to the computers.
If they were smart, they wouldn't be mining when you're gaming. If they did
that's what it did, right? Oh. So you would have your computer idle, running, and they had a client next to the game. The client would start up the game and connect to the server, but they would run this client, and you know, we'll get to a different topic, but they would run this client and computers while users thought they were idle. That program was actually mining.
You're really killing my theory on that, though. Come on now.
Sorry, you're releasing the secret right now. So Hobbyist cannot do that anymore.
No, but Jesse, you were mentioning before, like your first ASIC that you bought. It reminds me of a story where I bought my first ASIC, which was in like 2016. I think it was DID3. It was, I think it's 𝐋𝐸 algorithm, and I bought it directly from the Antminer website, and the price was 0.4 bitcoins at the time. And by the time I got it, it was just a very heavy paperweight, because in 3 months the profitability of this new ASIC, which was an ASIC for shitcoin obviously, the profitability just plummeted. And at the time of purchase, it said I would make like 30 euros per day. By the time I got it, it was 3 euros per day, and I just didn't even cover the electricity costs.
Like this is you're connecting very well to my next question, and that was like the development of the tech, going from CPUs to GPUs, FPGAs. So let's talk a little bit about that, because the return on investment was plummeting like crazy. You know, the difficulty was getting super tough. So how was that in the times?
So there's a general rule when buying ASICs that if you buy it for a shitcoin, expect the rewards to drop quickly. There's let's say a rule that you don't buy an ASIC for a coin that was just launched, because the price of the difficulty will grow very, very quickly. And there was a lot of allegations back then that the manufacturers are actually using the machines to mine either Bitcoin or other coins before selling it, which in effect I think it was quite true, because you could check the difficulty, and the difficulty would always ramp up before they would put the ASIC on sale, which was obviously
pretty shitty moves.
Yes.
Yeah, damn it. You speak to a lot of people, Jesse, so how do you see it from your perspective? The tech increase, these kind of practices of manufacturers?
Yeah, I think, look, mining is cutthroat competition, right? And it's permissionless, so everybody can do it. And that really enables, I think, people to think outside the box and innovate. All around the world, we're all playing the same game, right? And I think when you start CPU mining, you know, the next thought is, okay, how can I get more, right? What can I do, right? And then people start developing, they start investing, and then they come up, hey, we can use FPGAs, they're like, I don't know how much more efficient. Then the next step is ASICs, and now we are going to a stage where, okay, now we are like 12, 13 joules per terahash. 4 years ago we were at 100, you know, S9s or whatever. Insane increases in efficiency. And what I see now as the next step, and I don't know if there's a next development after ASICs, you know, I know we're talking about the past, but like, what's the next level in efficiency? Do we now optimize for use cases? You know, do we optimize my machines for demand response, or do we optimize machines for heat reuse? You see MicroBT coming out with different form factors that fit into racks, into existing racks, where they can, you know, maybe provide additional benefits to the buyer. So that's really interesting to me. But at the end of the day, it's a result of cutthroat competition and permissionlessness. There's no regulation. You know, I can, if I want to, I can come up with my own ASIC design if I was able to, and just develop it, buy chips or have them fabricated and buy my own ASIC. You know, there's no regulation that stops me from doing so.
Going back to your question there a little bit on manufacturers running, you know, kind of the hardware, kind of like what you spoke to. It's definitely from the world that I come from and my audience as well. It's absolutely something that we see even today, and a lot of it. It's that fine line between, hey, we're doing QA testing, and then, oh, we're actually, you know, mining on it. I mean, a lot of these manufacturers are not dumb. And, you know, especially from my world, we're very much looking at the fact of, like, are these ASICs ran so early on, and then when they're kind of the technology has phased out, then I get my hands on it, and it's available for me. And you got to think about it. You know, people question it all the time with buying ASICs on the fact of, you know, why are they selling these ASICs now? Well, because they've mined on them for quite a while. So, and you can see it, you know, a lot of us at home miners, a lot of the people in my space, we're looking at network hash rate. Something that I know you're very familiar with too, looking at constantly. And you can see those fluctuations when they occur. And so there's a lot of questionability there, you know, and where that fine line comes from. I'm not getting my ASIC miners that I get in perfect condition, nice and clean. I mean, they got dust and dirt on them, they got scratches on them sometimes. And you've really got to wonder, like, how long was this mined on for? So it's definitely a game that's definitely played out there with these manufacturers.
Can you see it in the logs, like from the customer's perspective? Can you see if the miner was hashing before, or they just scrape and erase everything and like it seems like brand new?
They say QA, right? Hey, we got a QA on it. You know, we got to make sure it's in, and so as I said before, it's that fine line. I mean, I would imagine somebody far more knowledgeable than me, and maybe we have some of those people here today that are able to see, you know, the age of those chips or the age of that board and like how long it was run for, or at least estimates in that regard. But from my world, that's a little bit outside of my expertise for sure.
Thanks for sharing. Jesse, you wanted to say something before? Marco?
Yeah, just to go back to Hobbyist response now, like the first ASIC that was available on the market was called Butterfly Labs.
Yeah.
And it's one of the most, let's say, controversial, almost scams, because they created this machine that was hundreds of times more powerful than a GPU. And at the time, they created the orders so you could buy the machine, but you never got it because they manufactured the machine and they started mining themselves because they noticed that it's way more profitable for them just to mine instead of sell the machine. So it was kind of like a crowd rising for them without anything for the people.
Yeah, that's pretty terrible.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering about mining altcoins, right? So just to quickly ask a question for myself. Do you also buy the coins that you mine? How do you think about it? Because people say, oh no, I'm mining altcoins, but then I'm selling them for Bitcoin. But then it's like, okay, and the ROI is 12 months. Is that not a gamble on the purchasing power of that altcoin in Bitcoin terms not going to absolute hell?
Yeah, great question there. So, at least from my strategy in that regard, I very much am doing, when I want to get into an altcoin early on, and I'm going to mine it, whether it's GPU, CPU, because at that point, ASICs aren't quite there yet most of the time. I'm actually buying a substantial amount of it to kind of kick off that wallet, get that started early on, because as many of you guys know here, the earlier you get into it, the better. And that's when it's fractions of a penny and that availability is there. But altcoins, I mean, I think we're absolutely moving in that direction, especially from home miners, where I come from, or mid-sized miners. Bitcoin mining itself is becoming farther and farther out of reach because of just the massive farms that are coming online, and 1, 2, 10, 20, 100 Bitcoin miners just aren't as effective as what they were years ago. So a lot of people are pivoting over to script mining. Or to other altcoin mining right now, and then just flipping it. At the end of the day, we want to go orange at the end of the day, but we're using altcoins in order to get there more profitably. I mean, my most profitable altcoin miner makes $30 to $40 a day. My most profitable Bitcoin miner makes $5.
Yeah.
If I get to Bitcoin at the end of that path, what does it matter? It's still Bitcoin. It's just a different path you take to get there.
Yeah, the miners in general are just profit-oriented. Mm-hmm. They generally, Bitcoin miners or any other miners aren't Bitcoin maximalists. Mm-hmm. I would a majority. Yeah. So that's I think the key to answer your question. Bitcoin miners don't care about the coin necessarily. There's this fiasco around supporting the network and all that stuff, but it's mostly marketing, I would say.
Yeah.
It's profit oriented. That they're chasing the profits. And
I disagree.
You disagree?
Yeah, I disagree. Sorry to interrupt. I disagree because now you're saying, okay, it's making $30, $40 a day versus my Bitcoin miner. But for how long? Mm-hmm. And how much was that miner to begin with? Because oftentimes if it makes $30, $40, it's also more expensive. Right? And if I want orange at the end of the day, if now Bitcoin goes up, right, and these coins depreciate in Bitcoin terms, do I not make a mistake long term? It's just a gamble, right? That's what it feels like. It's just a
speculation.
Yeah. How much you want to gamble? It's the same, and this is why I don't or frequently advise against mining altcoins, because I feel like if I don't understand what I'm mining, then I shouldn't. The same reason why I don't buy it is why I don't mine it, right?
Yeah, we saw it right now with 𝐋𝐨𝐴. I know the difficulty is going crazy. We saw it before with 𝐶ADENA. So sometimes people come to us with crazy demands on crazy miners that I never heard of. And then I just checked the difficulty a few months after, and it's just going crazy, right? So right now, people are barely buying, the hobbyists are barely buying Bitcoin miners and going to L7s, L9s right now. So we can see it. And connecting to, Mark, you want to add something?
Yes, I think the audience doesn't know what you do, so maybe you should explain that part.
You're the guys, adding value, but yeah, we are METH company. We're doing Bitcoin mining in Ethiopia and Paraguay, and with that proceeds we finance education. So we do educator academies for Bitcoiners and having a Bitcoin academy in Roatan in Honduras. So thank you, Ricky. Thank you very much. So yeah, we can talk later. But guys, this is about you. Coming back to development and the history, we started solo. Maybe some of you tried solo as well, but then we ended up with Bitcoin pools. So maybe Marco, develop a little bit on that. How we get there? Was the motivation purely kind of getting away from volatility or variability of payouts, or was it also driven by philosophy reasons?
I would say it's mostly about payouts, because if you have one miner mining on Bitcoin and he gets all of the rewards, then another one comes, he only gets half of the rewards, and if we do that thousands times more, then at the end of the day you're earning, you get a payout only once per year maybe. So which doesn't make sense. You have to pay the electricity bills, you have to evolve, and also the difficulty is rising all the time. So if you don't get the payout, you miss those epochs. And you miss out on profits, obviously. So it's definitely, again, I would say profit-oriented, or maybe more like stability-oriented. But to circle back to solo mining, you were mentioning before your friend, the OG friend, that had a node. And most people don't know that back in the day when Satoshi created the Bitcoin Core app, there was actually a miner inside that Bitcoin Core app. It was removed, I think, in version 14. I think right now we're like around 25 or version 30, something like that. And a while ago I actually tried to download the old version, and it would still work. Like the mining inside the Bitcoin core, it was, like you said, just a press of a button, and you were mining as a miner on a blockchain. Essentially, what the pools are doing now.
Yeah. This is insane. Like Dustin was telling me that he was mining like a couple of blocks a day, and just 50 bitcoins was appearing in his wallet, like pretty crazy times. And there was, in the first release, there was also a poker client or something like that.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it was something related to poker in the first versions of Core. Yeah, pretty crazy stuff. You can send Bitcoin to an IP address. So this is like really crazy.
Yeah, I think that was the thing.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So in the history of Bitcoin, the forums, the Bitcoin forums, played a key role in knowledge sharing. As you said, there was kind of like a lack of knowledge in the beginning. So how did you participate in the forums in those days, or did you take knowledge today from it? Did you only read, or did you contribute as well in these forums? And you are content creators, both. So I'd like to ask you first, guys, like how the content sharing works for you.
Content sharing works today a lot via social media. I'm not really active in blogs. I do dabble when I have the time in the old Bitcoin forums just to see what people were talking about that day. But not much forum activity today for me at all. I mean, LinkedIn is a big forum if you want it to be, right?
Sorry to interrupt your video, but check this out. I constantly get emails from the community asking me about trustworthy hosting facilities in the United States that I recommend. Well, I got you covered. Listen up. A few months back, I visited BlockOps Mining's brand new facility in Central Arkansas. The team there was super professional, knowledgeable, and everyday miners like you and I. After visiting the facility, I sent them a few of my ASIC miners for hosting and have been super happy with their service and communication. Go contact BlockOps Mining directly down below in the video description and tell them the HobbyistMiner sent you for great pricing on miners and hosting.
Yeah, I think for my world, GPU mining, I can speak more to that, as well as with ASIC that I've evolved into. But over the years, Bitcoin talk forums have been fantastic for finding a project that is very early, that is just announcing. Great example was, you mentioned Caspa earlier. That was one where you could find that directly on. If you go now, you can go look at the original post that's on there. You can find it when they announced it. Finding these projects early is really where a lot of people, especially home miners, will chase that. Getting the project early, getting it set up, and it's difficult. It is not easy. It's non-turnkey, but it's a great opportunity to find these projects, mine into them with your home hardware, and then you will actually see them evolve. Now, a lot of them don't take off, don't go anywhere, but there's a few, diamonds in there which work out well. And then, for me, it was Caspa and 𝐟𝐫𝐨𝐬𝐧 mining, kind of dual mining early on with that. I think a lot of that has slowly evolved now into, as you mentioned, like social media, but more YouTube, which is the world that I come from. And there's a lot of creators out there that are all about getting on these early. And it's very much a spec play that they talked about, where it's like, this is not profitable. This is not worth anything. I know very little about the project, but here's how to actually mine it. Here's how to set it up. So it's very much educational for people as well, and it's definitely targeted more towards your home miners, people just getting started that are like, hey, I got a home desktop computer with one GPU, and I just want to get into crypto mining. They're not a maximalist, they're not setting up farms or anything like that. They just want to participate in some avenue and kind of see what it's like.
Wonderful.
Just to add something, I think back in the day there wasn't also the amount of VC activity and the amount of money involved. Today, I think there's a lot less signal within these forums because it's just full of VC money that's trying to pump their own projects. I mean, how many altcoins do we have today? 20,000? More than?
I think
more than that. Back then. Like it's crazy.
Way too many.
You know, Bitcoin dominance still 50%. Oops. But yeah, it's but it's not the same as back then, where maybe somebody could come out with a project and there was like a lot of signal there in the discussion. I don't think that exists today anymore.
So no more forums, rather social media, YouTube channels, podcasts, things like that.
I wanted to ask a pool question. When you switched on the miner in the Bitcoin Core desktop version, were you solo mining? Were you pool mining? What were you?
You're solo mining. Essentially, this is what the pools are doing right now. They're running a node that communicates, because you have to have this node that communicates with the network, right? Otherwise, you cannot submit blocks. And essentially, the pools are doing this right now. So you have a node, and then on that node, you collect all of the hash rate. Basically, they just send you the compute to your IP address. And through that node, essentially, it could be a Bitcoin Core app on your Windows, and I can send my hash rate to you. Then Hobbyist can send a couple of his ASICs to your IP address, and Dusan can do the same, and then all of a sudden you're a mining pool.
Did you have the same level of secondary and primary pools back then? So talking about primary pools is the ones that are running the direct node and are interconnected to the blockchain directly, whereas secondary pools, they just sell their hash rate to the next bigger pool upstairs. Was it the same again?
No, I'm not aware of anything like that at the time. So this would basically be a proxy of hash rate. And no, I'm not aware of that. This was the thing back then, but I don't know everything.
It's interesting that we see the same sort of movement today with the BitAccess, open source mining BitX, run your own node connected to Datum from Ocean Pool, and sort of have direct access through your own node and mine at home.
It's kind of like closing the circle and getting back to the home mining. Like, I'm a big believer. I see the big guys getting bigger in Bitcoin mining, and then seeing this movement of small guy bringing back the hash rate. I mean, like, the comparison is small. It's tiny compared to the big farms, but I feel like this is getting back to the decentralization element of it.
I would argue the BitX thing, it's good for education, but in reality it doesn't help the decentralization. It's like fighting environment cause with these things that we have in Europe.
Well,
like, it doesn't make sense. It's essentially the same thing.
As the innovation we are doing here in Europe. You do SpaceX, you fly to moons and stuff, and we are having the 𝐶𝐸s. I mean, wow, we are saving the planet.
This was weird to me, by the way. Very weird to me. I was like, what is wrong with the top one?
You want to bite it off. We're like, what the fuck?
And then I had a second one. I was like, okay, maybe this is normal. Never been over here before. I'm not sure.
Sadly, it is, man. Sadly, it is.
So basically, in a way, it's very similar story. I'm not against BitX things and these small miners.
Great for it.
But to fight decentralization, you have to approach it from a different way, which I don't have the answer for exactly. But definitely having 4 terahash or 1 terahash miners is not the solution, because with one old S19 you get like the same hash rate as with like almost 100 of those.
Right.
Yeah,
it's just 1 terahash.
It's 1 terahash.
Yeah,
then yeah,
roughly that.
Yeah,
that
doesn't make sense.
And actually, you brought me to a question that I didn't write down, but it's interesting because, as I said, like, we're kind of closing the loop with coming back to the home miners. And if you speak about decentralization, right now I think all of you guys see that it's kind of getting centralized in a way that bigger guys getting bigger. And what do you see as potentially a solution going back to more decentralization? Is it wanted? Is it really going to happen? Or there's no more chance that we can really have decentralized mining?
It has to happen. When you say it's wanted, what does that mean? It's wanted by who?
I mean, it's a free market, so anybody decides,
Exactly,
right? So how do you see the space?
Bitcoin has to decentralize. Has to decentralize more over time. Mid long term, it'll be smaller mining. smaller use cases, lower uptime. I don't think in 20 years we'll see 1 gigawatt farms in Texas funded by diluted shareholders' money.
How do you think that happens? Because if you say it had to do it, like who's gonna do it and why? What's the economics behind it?
Look, I promote a lot of hash rate adoption in Africa with my company. I see these examples. Ethiopia, you know that better than I do, is one great first step. But you see a lot of interest in South Africa from people trying to mine on solar. They have stranded solar assets, 500 megawatts, a gigawatt of solar standing around. You know, what's the uptime on that? 20%. Power is free. It's all about power price. Mining gravitates towards the lowest power price, and that is not long-term 4 cents in Texas. It's not going to be, you know. The subsidies and the fees are going to keep decreasing. If hash rate keeps growing, hash price is not going to stay at 45. Long term is going to be maybe 30, 25. And the people that win and that grow are the ones that have the cheapest access to electricity. And you find that in a place like Congo, right? People buy a hydro dam where they're wasting electricity because they cannot offload it to the grid. And now for the first time, maybe going back to the sort of history part, now for the first time in this Bitcoin mining industry, we actually have the amount of old ASICs, right? The amount of old units, S19s or whatever, to support larger scale, low uptime projects. We couldn't do that 4 years ago because we didn't have enough liquidity, right? But there's thousands of old M30S++s, M30Ss, S19s that are looking for a new home, and they're finding it in like solar applications with demand response or wasted electricity in Africa. You know,
Going kind of off-grid.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
It has to decentralize that way.
Yeah, taking a little bit, different spin to that from my world too. Looking at it, more and more people are looking to get into Bitcoin mining.
Yeah.
Not at scale, but just participating, especially home miners as well. Even a lot of people I talk to that have solar that are like, and they're not looking to run, 10 ASIC miners from home. They just want to participate. So I think we're kind of going full circle where like, as Bitcoin is becoming more and more legitimized, at least, especially over the last few years, we've seen it with the current US election, has been a great talking point as well. And people are seeing the value, you're kind of coming to it a little bit later, being where we are right now, but more and more people want to participate in Bitcoin mining. And going back to like some of these FinAxes as you talked about, or other very low watt miners that are out there, people just want to be a part of something. Yeah. And so when we talk about decentralization, I do fully believe that these large-scale mining farms will continue. I mean, every other day it feels like there's new ones being announced, but at the exact same time, we're still seeing people get in on this. Now, very small amounts, as we talked about, but that decentralization still exists, even if it's at a small level. And I would love to know some metrics at some point of just like how many of these little one-off miners that people are running from home that add up very quickly.
Nice. Marco?
Yeah, I would like to respond to Jesse because he made a good point that Bitcoin mining will be forced to decentralized, and in my opinion, Bitcoin mining isn't essentially a Bitcoin mining only business anymore. And there's these heating projects, there's electricity balancing grids, and at that point we have to ask ourselves what is the core product, the main activity of a Bitcoin miner. And all of a sudden the core product is a heating project.
And hash rate is basically a byproduct.
Exactly. Yeah, and with grid balancing is the same thing.
Yeah.
At that moment, miners become batteries, and their byproduct is Bitcoin. So that's a way to. I think that's one of the ways to decentralize.
To our point, Marco, right? I study energy economics, and energy
Just
economics.
be brief. We have lost 4 minutes.
I'm being very brief. It's a very conservative industry, right? And this problem of stranded power has never been solved before. People don't look at stranded power because there's no solution for it. What do I do with my curtailed solar power? There's nothing I can do with it. And now I'm raising mine and saying, hey, why don't you put a container there? Put some magical machines inside, and they'll buy any electricity that you cannot sell anywhere else. That's a problem that we can now solve for the first time in energy economics.
Yeah.
Like that's
the brilliance of Bitcoin, right?
Exactly, and it doesn't exist before.
Yeah, that's very true. Guys, last question before we close it down, and again, touching the history, that's what we are here for. What are the lessons we can take from the OG miners, from the beginnings of the days that we can still apply today? Because as the saying goes, the technology advances, but the true wisdom doesn't change. So what's the wisdom from those years of Bitcoin mining that we can still apply today?
Sure, I'll jump in real quick and then let these guys jump in here. So something that I have learned, because I consume massive amount of content just being on YouTube all the time and also speaking with a lot of these individuals, is very much that it is a marathon, not a sprint. And that is something that we need to continue to remember when it comes down to, with mining, with patience. As I talked about at the very top of this panel here, it was like, hey, I got in for 3 months and didn't get rich, and I was like, this isn't for me. And unfortunately, that was a massive lesson learned there of the fact of like, you really have to be patient because this is not a 1 day, 1 month, 1 year type of situation. And that just applies to all new miners.
Beautiful. Patience, not a sprint, a marathon. Loved it.
I'd like to just follow up on this. It's definitely true. Like, always keep on mining in the bear market. Whoever goes through the bear market is the one that's the most profitable and the most money you normally make in the bear market.
So we shouldn't be discouraged by bear market, but keep mining through the bear market.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Marco. Jesse?
Yeah, plan for the worst outcome, right? If you can make it now, you can make it in the future. I think one big lesson is don't stop innovating. Don't stop trying out new things. The first people came out with FPGAs, or the first people who designed ASICs to mine Bitcoin didn't know if it was going to work, right? And they benefited from their will to innovate. And now I think going forward, it's the same thing. Don't be afraid to innovate and use Bitcoin mining to solve a problem of yours. Be it heat usage, be it demand response. We're seeing the first projects in Europe starting now, where people are realizing, okay, subsidies are running out for solar. What can we do with it, right? And don't be afraid to lift your hand, even if you've been in Bitcoin for a long while. If you see problems that Bitcoin mining can solve, talk to people about it, right? Depending on who they are, don't start with, hey, let's mine Bitcoin. But let's say, hey, how about we apply a consumer that is always flexible, can always consume the last kilowatt hour that you cannot sell, and then down the line maybe you get to Bitcoin mining. But don't stop innovating, I think is the key. I think we still have a long way to go. We're 15 years in, or 16, and mining has been at this scale for maybe 4 years or something. How long have ASICs been around? Not long.
And
we're seeing we have 750 exahashes today. It's insane.
That's just insane. When we started, it was like nothing compared to today.
Exactly. We're seeing hydro, we're seeing immersion, we're seeing different form factors, and I think it's a very interesting time to get into this space. And I'm very much looking forward to see where we will be in 5 years.
So guys, don't get discouraged. Be patient. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Keep innovating, don't be afraid to innovate, and mine through bear markets, because that's where it pays off. Guys, huge thank you. The HobbyistMiner, big applause to you. Jesse Pilke and Marco Tarman. Guys, thank you so much for this panel.